What if your DNA could unlock the secrets of ancient kingdoms, reveal migrations that shaped entire civilizations, and uncover connections to places you'd never expect? For Scotland, this isn't just a hypothetical, it's a reality. The DNA of modern Scots holds clues to a story spanning thousands of years, connecting them to ancient tribes, legendary warriors, and even global ancestors in distant lands. But how does this hidden history come to life? Scotland's unique location at the northern edge of Europe, where ancient peoples met and mingled, created a genetic landscape unlike any other. The secrets buried in Scottish DNA reveal far more than family trees. They uncover stories of survival, conquest, and cultural evolution. Imagine finding out that your ancestors might have fought alongside Vikings, lived in ancient Pictish kingdoms, or even carried a piece of DNA that connects you to the tribes of the Sahara. These aren't just possibilities, they are discoveries that modern genetic research is bringing to light every day. And while Scotland's iconic history is often told through its castles, clans, and battles, there's another story, one hidden in its DNA. A story that proves Scotland isn't just a land of rich traditions and breathtaking landscapes, it's also a genetic crossroads of ancient civilizations. So today, we're diving deep into this fascinating topic. Why does Scottish DNA reveal so much hidden history? What secrets do these genetic threads hold about the people who walked this land before us? By the end of this journey, you'll see Scotland's past, and maybe even your own, in an entirely new way. Scotland's genetic diversity is nothing short of extraordinary. Positioned at the edge of Europe, Scotland became a final destination for waves of ancient migrations. Over thousands of years, this land welcomed Celts, Norse Vikings, and even travelers from far-off regions like the Sahara. Each of these groups left their mark, creating a genetic mosaic unlike any other in the world. What makes Scotland so unique? Geography plays a crucial role. With its rugged mountains, remote islands, and deep valleys, Scotland's natural barriers have preserved the identities of those who settled here. These physical divisions ensured that many communities, from the Hebrides to the borders, developed distinct genetic traits. Even today, genetic research reveals clusters of DNA that match specific regions, reflecting the people who lived and stayed there for generations. One study, the Scotland's DNA Project, uncovered astonishing findings. Scientists identified over 100 different male genetic lineages and 150 female lineages, showcasing Scotland's place as a genetic melting pot. Some lineages trace back to ancient Europe, while others reveal connections to Asia and Africa. But this diversity isn't just a product of migration, it's also about preservation. Unlike some areas of Europe where populations moved frequently, many Scots married and lived locally. This means that in certain parts of Scotland, people today share the same genetic markers as those who lived there 1,000 years ago. The diversity and preservation of Scottish DNA tell us something profound. Scotland is more than just a land of beautiful landscapes and rich history. It's a living museum of genetic heritage. With every new study, we uncover more about how the crossroads of migration and isolation shaped the people of this remarkable country. Scotland's DNA isn't just a reflection of migration and diversity, it's a map of its ancient past. Hidden within the genetic code of modern Scots are the echoes of ancient kingdoms that once ruled this land. The Gaels, Picts, Britons, and Norse. These groups weren't just historical figures. They are still present today, carried in the DNA of their descendants. One of the most remarkable discoveries in modern genetics is how closely the DNA of Scottish people matches the territories of ancient kingdoms. For example, the Kingdom of Strathclyde in the southwest, Pictland in the northeast, and Dalriata in the west are all mirrored in modern genetic clusters. These findings confirm that many Scots still live in the same regions where their ancestors did during the Dark Ages. The Picts, known as the Painted People, are one of Scotland's most enigmatic ancient groups. Long thought to have disappeared, their legacy lives on in the DNA of people from northeastern Scotland. Similarly, the Gaels, who brought the Gaelic language and culture to Scotland from Ireland, left their mark in the Western Highlands. In the south, the Britons of Strathclyde, who spoke an early Celtic language, also contributed to the genetic story of the region. And then there's the Norse influence. From the 8th century onward, Viking warriors and settlers from Scandinavia made their mark on Scotland. Particularly in the Northern Isles, Orkney and Shetland still have some of the highest levels of Norwegian Viking ancestry outside Scandinavia, with up to 25% of their genetic makeup tracing back to these seafaring invaders. These ancient peoples didn't just shape Scotland's history, they shaped its DNA. Each kingdom, each migration, and each cultural shift left its imprint. Today, when scientists study the genetic clusters of Scotland, they are not just looking at data, they are looking at a living map of the country's ancient past. It's remarkable to think that in the fast-paced modern world, Scotland's DNA still holds the story of these ancient kingdoms. The shadows of the Dark Ages are alive and well, written into the genetic code of the people who call Scotland home. Scotland's DNA doesn't just connect its people to ancient kingdoms, it also reveals unexpected links to places and stories far beyond its borders. These surprising connections show just how global Scotland's genetic story truly is. One of the most intriguing findings is the discovery that over 1% of Scottish men carry a lineage that traces back to the Saharan Berber and Tuareg tribes. This ancient lineage, over 5,600 years old, reveals a connection to North Africa that few would expect. It's a reminder that migration and trade have shaped human history for thousands of years, leaving traces even in places as remote as Scotland. But the surprises don't stop there. Take the M34 marker, for example, a lineage with Saracen origins. This marker connects Scots not only to the Middle East but also to some famous figures in history. One well-known example is actor Tom Conti, who discovered through genetic testing that he shares this lineage with none other than Napoleon Bonaparte. It's a discovery that highlights how genetics can reveal unexpected ties between individuals and their distant past. Then there are the royal bloodlines. The Scotland's DNA Project found that 15% of men with the Stuart surname can trace their ancestry directly to the royal Stuart line of kings. This discovery links modern Scots to Scotland's royal history, showing how deeply intertwined DNA is with the country's cultural heritage. Even individual stories provide fascinating glimpses into the past. For instance, comedian Fred Macaulay learned that despite his Viking-sounding surname, his DNA revealed a very different tale. One of his ancestors was a slave in Dublin, taken to the Hebrides and later integrating into the local population. This story, carried in his DNA, is just one example of how Scotland's genetic landscape holds not only ancient history but also deeply personal connections. These findings remind us that DNA isn't limited by borders. Scotland's genetic history includes connections to Viking warriors, African nomads, Middle Eastern traders, and even royal dynasties. Every strand of DNA carries a story, and in Scotland, those stories are more diverse and fascinating than anyone could have imagined. How does DNA unravel history? It starts with genetic markers, tiny segments of DNA that act like footprints left behind by our ancestors. These markers are passed down through generations and help scientists trace migration patterns, ancient settlements, and cultural exchanges. For Scotland, these genetic clues are unlocking secrets that have been hidden for centuries. Using advanced genetic technology, researchers can compare modern DNA to ancient samples. This process has revealed that the genetic patterns of today's Scots closely resemble those of Dark Age populations. By analyzing these markers, scientists can pinpoint when and where different groups, like the Picts, Gaels, and Norse, interacted and settled across Scotland. One groundbreaking project, the Scotland's DNA Project, used these methods to identify over 100 male lineages and 150 female lineages in Scotland. Each lineage carries a unique story, from Viking invasions to migrations from Ireland and beyond. The data has shown that Scots not only carry traces of ancient European ancestry but also connections to the Middle East, Africa, and even Asia. What makes this possible is the ability to track how certain markers appear in specific populations. For example, the M34 marker, shared by Tom Conti and Napoleon Bonaparte, originates from the Saracen people of the Middle East. Similarly, markers linked to the Berber and Tuareg tribes of the Sahara reveal a migration path that stretches thousands of years and thousands of miles, connecting Africa to Scotland. The science doesn't just stop at ancient history. Comparing modern populations to historical ones allows researchers to map out regions where genetic continuity has persisted for centuries. In Scotland, this means that many people are living in the same areas their ancestors occupied during the Dark Ages. This remarkable preservation helps researchers understand not just history but also the factors that shaped Scotland's unique genetic identity. Thanks to advancements in technology, the puzzle pieces of Scotland's past are coming together in ways historians could only dream of a few decades ago. DNA isn't just about ancestry. It's a time machine that takes us deep into history, providing insights into who we are and where we come from. For Scotland, this journey into the past has only just begun. Scotland's DNA isn't just a collection of fascinating stories, it's a map of its hidden history, connecting modern Scots to ancient events and movements. Let's explore some of the most significant insights revealed by genetic research, showing how Scotland's past is written in its people's DNA. One of the most striking discoveries is the extent of Viking ancestry in Scotland, particularly in the north. Orkney and Shetland, known for their strong Norse heritage, have the highest levels of Norwegian Viking DNA outside Scandinavia, with up to 25% of their genetic makeup directly tracing back to these seafaring explorers. This genetic footprint aligns with historical records, which describe the islands as key Viking strongholds during the 8th and 9th centuries. Even the Hebrides and mainland Scotland show traces of Viking influence, though at lower levels. These findings underscore the profound impact of Norse settlers, not just on Scotland's culture, but on its people's DNA. Another revelation comes from Scotland's shared heritage with Ireland. The genetic overlap between Scots and the people of Northern Ireland tells a story of centuries-long connections. This bond was solidified during the 17th century Ulster plantations, when thousands of Scots settled in Northern Ireland. Today, their descendants, known as Ulster Scots, carry the genetic markers of both regions, blurring the lines between Scottish and Irish ancestry. These connections highlight how closely intertwined the histories of these two neighboring countries truly are. Beyond its Viking and Irish ties, Scotland's genetic story also shines a light on isolated and rural communities. Places like the Highlands, the Hebrides, and Argyll have maintained distinct genetic profiles due to their geographic isolation. This separation preserved local DNA, creating clusters that reflect the ancient peoples who lived there. Even within the small islands of Orkney and Shetland, researchers have found genetic differences between populations just a few miles apart. It's a testament to how Scotland's unique geography has shaped its genetic identity over thousands of years. What makes these discoveries so compelling is that they connect the present to the past in ways we can see and feel. The people of Scotland today are living evidence of ancient migrations, Viking conquests, and cultural exchanges. Each genetic marker tells a story of resilience, survival, and the blending of diverse peoples into a nation unlike any other. Scotland's DNA isn't just about history, it's about legacy. The more we uncover, the more we realize how deeply connected modern Scots are to their ancestors and how their hidden history continues to shape the world today. Why do these discoveries about Scottish DNA matter today? Beyond their historical significance, they hold profound meaning for Scotland's cultural identity, scientific progress, and even the way we connect to our shared humanity. One of the most important aspects of this research is how it strengthens Scotland's cultural heritage. The genetic ties to ancient kingdoms, Vikings, and even global ancestors offer a tangible connection to history that goes beyond folklore and written records. These discoveries give modern Scots a deeper sense of identity, linking them directly to the people who shaped the land and culture over thousands of years. For many, uncovering these connections is a source of pride, sparking renewed interest in Scotland's traditions, from its languages to its legendary clans. But the value of Scottish DNA research extends far beyond history and culture. Genetic studies are also driving advancements in science, particularly in health research. Scotland's genetic diversity, combined with the unique DNA clusters in isolated areas like the Hebrides and Highlands, provides scientists with rare insights into genetic variations that influence disease and health. These rural populations, with their preserved genetic makeup, are helping researchers identify rare mutations that could lead to breakthroughs in medicine, improving treatments for conditions that affect people worldwide. There's also a deeply human aspect to these discoveries. By tracing the migrations and connections of ancient peoples, we're reminded of how interconnected we all are. The stories uncovered in Scottish DNA, of Vikings, Celts, and even Saharan tribes, prove that no one's history is isolated. Across continents and centuries, people have moved, mingled, and shared their cultures and genes, creating a web of connections that links us all. These insights make it clear that DNA is much more than a scientific curiosity. It's a bridge between the past, present, and future. For Scotland, it's a tool to better understand its rich history and preserve it for future generations. And for the world, It's a reminder that every person's DNA holds stories that are part of a much larger narrative. So, as we uncover more about Scotland's hidden history, we're also learning something about ourselves, that the threads of the past run through us all, binding us to one another in ways we're only beginning to understand. Scotland's DNA is more than just a record of ancestry. It's a treasure trove of hidden history, connecting the past to the present in ways that continue to astonish us. From ancient kingdoms and Viking legacies to surprising global connections, the genetic story of Scotland is as diverse and dynamic as the people who call it home. What makes this journey so remarkable is how much it reveals about humanity itself. Scottish DNA shows us that history is never static. It's written into our very genes, shaped by migrations, cultural exchanges, and the lives of those who came before us. These discoveries don't just tell us where we come from. They give us a sense of belonging, a connection to something much bigger than ourselves. As we uncover more about Scotland's past through its DNA, we're reminded of the incredible power of science to illuminate stories that might otherwise remain hidden. It's a journey that's far from over. With each breakthrough, we learn more about the resilience and diversity of the people who lived here, and about how their legacy continues to shape the Scotland we know today. So, what about your story? What might your DNA reveal about your own hidden history? Could it connect you to ancient kingdoms, legendary figures, or unexpected places far from home? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Who knows? Your journey into the past might inspire someone else to start their own. And if you enjoyed discovering the secrets of Scotland's DNA, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more incredible stories of history and science. Together, let's keep exploring the fascinating connections that make us who we are.